Really happy to see you all here because it's a gorgeous day.
Yes.
And for Wisconsinites, the cold is coming. Everybody's got gardens tucked away, so I really appreciate it. But I don't think that anything I'm going to say here briefly is wasted on anybody, even if it's what might be considered to be the choir that I'm preaching to. Because we all need reminders, and you all need to be reminded how important you are and how much of leaders that you are since you're here, and I know how much work a lot of you have been doing already, and that there's 45 days left. So I'm going to say what I got to say, and I appreciate everybody listening. So first of all, this is how I like to begin. Give me a show of hands of who is alive today.
I think.
Oh, that's good.
Okay.
That's good. At my last one, not everybody raised their hand. I don't know what that was about. So, and here's something that I read on the internet this morning that I like to think about, or that I liked to think about when I saw it because I hadn't seen it before. It's by Wendell Berry. So I want you to think about it first, and I'll come back to it at the end. It says, "When I rise up, let me rise up joyful like a bird, and when I fall, let me fall without regret like a leaf." And some things on the internet are wonderful because it's just those words, and it's just Wendell Berry's name, and it makes you think. And I love to save those and go back to them. And so, what I'm saying to you here is that we humans and we Americans are not ordinary species. We are extraordinary, and we have to remember that. When I thought about coming here today, I thought about just something that I've done. It's interesting how memories come in based on anything that happens in life. I used to work at an animal hospital back in Rochester, New York, where I lived for a couple years. And I was just thinking of all the things I've done in my relatively short life, and I used to run the crematorium at the Monroe County Animal Hospital. And I learned that all these people really they wanted to save the ashes of their precious, beloved animals, and it was an honor. And I would have to keep them separate in the incinerator and then put the ashes in a thing, and it's just something that popped into my head. And so I thought, since I have this opportunity to actually speak to people, who gets to do that very often, I want you all to think of something you've done. And I don't just mean your marriage or your kids or your graduation, just something, and I'm not going to ask you to share it with me, but I think it's a good exercise. You should remember that some really fun things you've done in your life, because every single thing you've done has led you to be right here and to be thinking about what's going to be happening in 45 days. And I like to do that. And so things that I like to do that are beneficial to me, I encourage other people to do. And so, politically speaking, in these times, what I have been a little irritated, scared, and worried about is the phrase that we all hear so often about back to normal. You hear a lot of, when are we going to get back to normal? We got to get back to normal. I want to get back to normal. And I don't like it. And because normal is a big part of what led us here, and I think it's very dangerous, because back to normal is not where we need to go. And for whatever you believe in, whether it's just science, whether it's a higher power, whatever you believe in that has put us in this position as humans in 2020, we are here. And so when I hear back to normal, I think turn the corner. I think we have to turn the corner. And as a politician, and as someone who gets a wonderful feeling about even the opportunity to serve people, I don't want to get back to normal. I want to turn the corner with many things, much better than what we have. And so I heard this week out of Madison, Speaker Voss was in an interview, and he was talking about the potential of a supermajority in the state legislature. And he had been saying previously that that's what he was seeking, that's what he wanted. But now, based on his analysis of the situation, he doesn't think that's going to be possible. He doubts highly that it's going to be possible. And so for people who don't like that, yes, that's a good thing. But the way that he said it, and the way that he parsed out the numbers as someone who's been in the legislature for far too long, he pointed to 3 districts over near Milwaukee suburbs that are going to be toss-ups, and he said, well, it looks like we're not going to get that because we're being outraised here, we're being outraised there. And that political speak drives me crazy, because think of what that says. We're being outraised here, we're being outraised there, and that's the way they process everything. Their parameters of possibility have been shut down to this little narrow thing, and what that says to us and to all of their voters is, okay, we've got all those voters in the bag, we know these people are going to vote against us. There's this little group that we're not sure of, but we'll just flood their mailboxes with tons of flyers, we'll raise tons of money, and so they think it's over. Their parameters of possibility are minuscule, and it does a disservice to their voters. And that's what I'm desperately trying to tell all my neighbors, and what I would tell all of you to help me out, to tell your neighbors about me, is that I care about the people on the other side just as much as the people on this side. I'm under no aspersions, if that's the right word, that everybody's going to agree with me. That's not what this country's about. I just want to do what's best for everybody. And in this time, we need to expand the parameters of possibility. So what I've envisioned, if you can picture like a movie, there are the decision makers and the overlords and the people who are like Speaker Voss and leaderships from both sides who are pushing people around on the chessboard of politics and of power like they're little pawns. And what I want to be, and what we are here in Baldwin, Wisconsin, by these trees, I picture us in some sort of dark room, maybe underground somewhere, maybe it's raining outside, picture it like a movie, right? And we're down in there, some low lights, and and there's this big harvest table out there, and everybody's gathered. So what are we going to do about this time that we're in? And I want to have that moment where I can see all the stuff on the table that's there, whatever we've gathered, some food and drink, and just do that thing you see in the movies where you put your arm on one side and just take everything off the table, and then you throw down your plan for everybody to look at. And so we can't just say we're better. We can't just say we have love and compassion, which we do, and it's very important to stress that, but we have plans. And imagine gathering around that scrolled out group of plans, or that big map, whatever it is, that's a framework for the future. And that's what we have to have, and that's what we got to tell people that we do have. And so on day one, we got to talk about what we're going to do. We're going to take the Medicaid expansion. We're going to come up with new local food systems in this time. That's what we need to be doing. We need to change our mind. We need to figure out the best way to stay local. Local education systems. We need to get broadband. We need to have fair district maps so that people's voices are heard. All those political things that we all believe in, yes, we need to do it, and we need to have the plan to do it. And we need to have that on day one. And so a friend of mine over in Menominee named Casey was telling me she worked on the recall campaign, and she told me one time recently that she's so sick of just holding the line. She's so sick of having that shield up, that shield where she knows she's right and she knows she has to fight, and they have to recall the governor, and they have to hold up the shield against the lies and against the division and the vitriol and the neighbors who have been confused and propagandized and manipulated, and they're just holding the line all the time. But we need to take this time and step out from behind the shields and push the line forward. Wouldn't it be wonderful to be in front of that, to not always have the shield up? And I think if we talk to our neighbors, we can actually do that. And so when I see all the Trump signs and the Trump flags and the loud trucks, I don't get upset at them. I want the opportunity to talk to them. And that's what I'm asking all of you to help my campaign with, help our campaign with, and help our neighborhoods with from now for the next 45 days, and especially going forward, no matter what happens. And so what can you say to them if you get into a conversation? Because for them, it's hard for us to understand the way that you picture in your mind. If someone said, okay, picture Donald Trump, picture Mitch McConnell, picture Ted Cruz, you get a visceral feeling. So for these people with the Trump signs, if you say to them, picture Barack Obama, picture Nancy Pelosi, picture Chuck Schumer, they get almost that identical visceral feeling. And so what we need to do is put that aside. And it's not to say that you forget what you know or you change your beliefs, but you need to understand that that's how they feel. And that's why it's not just because it's me, it's not just because it's Patty, it's because I believe to my heart and my soul that local is so much more important, not just in policies that affect you locally, but in changing the political minds of people. And so you can say you have to read about this guy. You have to see what Patty has done. You have to see where she's gone. And so if they listen, if you can get into those conversations, it does wonders for your neighborhood, it does wonders for your mind, it does wonders for that day when you can get someone to talk to you on a local level and you're not coming down from the top with Biden and Trump talk. And then eventually, if you have those conversations, where does it end up at? And they might say, okay, well then why? Why is Patty a Democrat? Why is John a Democrat? If there's no difference, if it's just local politics and just wanting to do the best for people, then why do you choose that side? And this is what I always say. This is my number one difference in these local discussions. And there are lots of differences and lots of reasons I'm not on the other side. But for the discussions that will make the change, here's what I say. I say because what John Calabrese can do and what he has done as just a citizen and not a lawmaker yet, I can go to my friend Patty and I can say, hey Patty, which I did last year, I completely disagree with your signing on to and your support of the felony pipeline protest bill that was pushed through the legislature last year. And Patty will have a conversation with me, and she will give me her reasons about why she did that. And I asked her in public, there were people around, and she told me about it. And I still don't agree with her, not at all on that bill, but we are still wonderful friends. I can say on my social media, and to anybody here, Governor Evers took, I think, 30 grand from a company, yes, it was a company in donation for when he was running for governor. And then he gave that same company, a Marinette Marine Company, a $3 million grant once he got in to build their shipbuilding yard. Maybe he would have done that anyway. But I can say that on my social media, that I disagree with our system of financing campaigns. I see an appearance, at least, of corruption from that money going there and Governor Evers giving that grant to the thing. I can do that. And so I would say to this neighbor, my opponent, go to my opponent. Go to somebody who's already been in the legislature, like Patty's opponent, and ask them that. Show me an example where you have been able to go to your colleague, to your leader on that side, and you say, I completely disagree with you, let's have a discussion, and we go from there. They do not do that. They are in lockstep. They cannot disagree. They are pawns in the legislature controlling what they view as pawns out in the communities. That's the difference. We want to keep things local. For me, it's first and foremost the people of the 29th District and my neighbors. Then it's my caucus. Then it's my state. That's the way it works. That's the way it should work. And you all have the opportunity to start those conversations. And it's a dark time. It's a crazy year. There's lots of death and unemployment. And it's hard to keep your head up. But we have to keep our head up. And that's why I asked that question at the beginning. Who here is alive? Because you're alive. You got that going for you. And when you get to a point, when you get towards the end, you want to look back and say, I spent too much time with my head down. I spent too much time worrying. And so the other thing that you need to do, that I always try to remember to say again when I get these wonderful opportunities to talk to people, is what else do you do? What else do you do to keep yourself centered and to keep yourself grounded and to keep yourself not just to get sucked into this political machine and to get so worried and fearful of things that are honestly worrisome and fear-inducing. So what do? I heard Cornel West, who I love to hear, he's a public intellectual, a brilliant man, historian of all sorts of American culture. Someone asked him when the pandemic was hitting, like, what do we do? What do we do in this time? And he said, what do we do? And I'm speaking to you as he spoke to this reviewer, because all of us are special. Those memories I talked to you about at the beginning, that's a part of who you are. And you all have a calling, and you all have a work, and you all have something that makes you who you are. And so he said, what do? We go back to the blues. We go back to the musicians. You blow your horn, you sing your song, you write your book, you engage in your work and your calling, you be part of a collective and a social movement, and you be ready to die. And you pass that on to the younger generation. And I'm going to be 44 next week, and I don't want to die. Nobody wants to die, right? But what he's saying, and what I'm saying is, how important it is for you to be here on this beautiful day, and how important it is for you that you spend so much time worrying about the future of this country and the future of your state, the future of this district and your neighbors and your families. You know, even if you haven't articulated it in your head, that you are willing to die for it. And when you get that mindset, when I say, if I had the choice, would I be willing to die between now and the next 45 days to know that the state of Wisconsin and my children and your children had a brighter future where we got along with each other and weren't afraid of each other and we could all pursue that happiness that is guaranteed in our Constitution? Yeah, I would. I would. And I have convinced myself of that. And I don't want to, but I would. And you got to think about that when you go forward. Like, this is your life, and you got to give it to something fully. And I feel like what we're doing here in these crazy times is just a wonderful thing, and it's motivating. And the powers that remain the powers, what are they most afraid of? The reason that they spread division, the reason that they break up unions, they are deathly afraid of people together. But it's not just people together. It's not just people together armed with knowledge. It's people together who aren't afraid. So you got to get up each morning and look in the mirror and think about all the things that you can do. And I think for everybody here, you can listen and you can see and you can walk and you can move your arms, and that's a wonder. And we got to take it and we got to use it so that we don't ever look back and think, what was I doing in that time? And so now I'm going to read those words from the beginning one more time. When I rise up, let me rise up joyful like a bird. And when I fall, let me fall without regret like a leaf. And that's what I'm going to do. And so for our campaign, what I would ask, there are folders over there with postcards you can take to write. You can sign your name on an email list so you can see what we're doing. We're going to be having every weekend opportunities to walk around and hang literature on people's doors and talk to anybody we see. I'm still not really knocking on doors. If you feel like you wanted to give me $10, think about giving me $20, because they are coming with flyers. They're going to call me a communist. They're going to say I'm coming to take your guns and your babies and your dogs and everything else. And we are really close in this district. And this is the place where you can make the most difference. Lost by just 2,000 votes last time. It's an open seat. From who I talk to, and from what I feel, it's really, really close. And we are on the precipice of having enough money to send out our own mailer. And I hate to ask for money, but that's what you got to do. But more importantly, seek out those conversations, be unafraid, and continue to enjoy your days, and go forward.